Most of the people I know have chosen their sides and they're doing this already. You can't tell them that they aren't because they believe that they are. Everyone has chosen who they're going to move with. Everyone is moving in unity as far as they're concerned. It's not a matter of not having people that we agree with. We all have people that we walk with. But if this was about us, then all of us would be the subject of this material that we call the Bible. This collection of books over so many years. For my grandchildren and my brothers and sisters in Kenya, and those who feel that they benefit from this information, God bless you. If this information is any benefit to you, please like on whatever platform you see it on, share it to whether it's your friends, family, or people that you're in collaboration with on social media. If it's helpful, if it gives you clarity, if it helps you to understand, if it curses any type of disease on the inside of your mind, whether it be depression or anger or malice or any type of fear, if it helps you in any way, please share it with somebody else. In Numbers chapter 9, we've been reading about the Passover and I want to say the beauty of that system. The God's willingness to sacrifice on our behalf, where He usually sends people into a sacrificial situation to fight on our behalf, even when we don't do any fighting. It's true in the book of Exodus that the Israelites were not doing any fighting. It took what some would call an outsider to come in and help them, but an outsider who was born into the family but spends time outside learning and coming back and then speaking to the leadership of that generation to affect the numbers. Now, I don't know if you understand a word I'm saying, but look at the title of the book. The goal is not to get the leadership to move. It's to get the numbers to move. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh there. We really do overcomplicate things. In the year 2024, we have a problem with moving the numbers. We have a problem with getting people to see the benefit of their own unification. And under what banner are we going to do it? Okay, fine, we're going to unify. Under what banner? Because we have many banners. That's why the banner is so important. Every diverse banner represents someone who has a vision for how it works. And it could be, I don't want to lose you. I want you to understand the importance of having a banner, a unified banner, so that you can get the majority of the people to move in one direction. But everyone has to see the benefit of following that one banner. I'm not going to say the name of God if you're waiting for me to do that. Study to show yourself approved. And understand that God is all things, including a banner. If your banner is not based upon the principles and the practices of God, acknowledging Him, the God likeness, the God material, the one and only Himself, because there has to be one that you follow. If you're off just slightly and your banner is an organization or a person, then you're into idolatry. The head has to be God of all creation, or people will move, but they will not move in unity because their direction is slightly skewed from God. How would you know? It's real simple. When God says move, we move. When God says rest, we rest. Moving in unity means we agree on the times to move, and we agree on the times to rest. We agree on the times to take action, and we agree on the times not to take action. Now, without getting too complicated, the action or the actions that we take when we do take actions have already been described. We're moving into the second month of the second year, and Moses is teaching the people step by step how to move in unity with God. He's taking the time to get to know the people. He's taking the time to, through God, to understand who they are, and my ministry is to leaders. So it makes me wonder, are we moving in unity? Are we taking, before we start asking people to move, are we taking the time to get to know the people? Are we pulling them out of their circumstances? Or are we waiting for them to pull themselves out of their circumstances? Are we going before them? Or are we waiting for them to have their own victory so that we can claim that we were part of their victories? Say we're their pastor, we're their apostle, we're their prophet. There's I can't call him young because he's around my age, maybe a little bit younger, but he's in his 50s. And he called me a prophet, and I certainly appreciated that. It's nice of him to say. But he called me something that he sees, I believe, in himself. I don't think he was trying to do anything other than compliment me. I think when we're serving the people, they do see themselves in their leader. I think the leadership's mistake is to take credit for what they see. And the reason why I say that is because we're talking about moving in unity. The goal is to get people to see themselves in the movement, to see their talent, to see when they're supposed to move, to see when they're supposed to sit. And the only way you can do that is by being an example. By moving when God tells you to move, Mr. or Mrs. Leader, or Ms. Leader. Numbers chapter 9, verse 15. And on the day that the tabernacle was reared up, the cloud covered the tabernacle, the tent of the testimony. That part. And at even there was upon the tabernacle, as it were, the appearance of fire until the morning. Until the morning. The appearance of fire. So it was. Always the cloud covered it, and the appearance of fire by night. So the cloud covered it by day, and the appearance of fire by night. Cloud, day, fire, night. And when the cloud was taken up, day, then from the tabernacle, then after that the children of Israel journeyed. And in the place where the cloud abode, there the children of Israel pitched their tents. And at the command of the Lord, the children of Israel journeyed. Cloud lifted, journey, and at the command of the Lord they pitched. Cloud or fire descend. As long as the cloud abode upon the tabernacle, they rested in their tents, and when the cloud tarried long upon the tabernacle many days, then the children of Israel kept the charge of the Lord and journeyed not. And it was when the cloud was a few days upon the tabernacle, according to the commandment of the Lord, they abode in their tents, and according to the commandment of the Lord they journeyed. And it was when the cloud abode from even unto morning, and the cloud was taken up in the morning, then they journeyed, whether by day or by night that the cloud was taken up, they journeyed. So for you who may think that at night when the sun sets and there's fire, everyone sleeps. No, it was a cloud of fire. And if it dwelt there, you dwelt there. And if it didn't, and if it was lifted, it was time to move. I want to get down to the end of chapter 9 before I talk, because it's not a conversation, it's just me talking. Before I lecture, actually. Verse 21, and it was when the cloud abode from the evening to the morning. We read that, I think. Verse 22, or 2 days, or a month, or a year, that the cloud tarry upon the tabernacle remained thereon. The children of Israel abode in their tents and journeyed not, but when it was taken up, they journeyed. Verse 23, at the commandment of the Lord they rested in the tents, and at the commandment of the Lord they journeyed. They kept the charge of the Lord at the commandment of the Lord by the hand of Moses. That's the part I wanted to read. It's interesting, which I think is an overstated statement. It's interesting. But it is interesting to me who people follow. I personally can't follow someone who's not mindful of me and not mindful of God. I find it uncomfortable. And the reason why I find it uncomfortable is that I have a little bit of history and maybe my mindset is different and maybe it's not right to most, but it seems to fit for me. When I follow people who are essentially focused on themselves or they're building their enterprise, I lose. I struggle. I give everything I got, and it's expected that you do it without consideration of me. In other words, there's no reciprocation. You just give everything you got to the point of poverty. I've given everything I've got to the point of losing my house, falling into a depression, being accused of hitting on married women, being kicked out of apartments, struggling to find my way, literally washing up out of toilets in Southern California, not in the 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, no, in the 2000s. Following behind people who told me that they had my best interests. And then when I made my mistakes, because I did make a lot of mistakes in my life, I have, but I've been falsely accused and rightly accused, but never rightly supported. I was treated as someone that was a cancer to the environment. As though I no longer counted after I'd given everything to follow people. Multiple times. Multiple churches. Multiple businesses. This isn't unusual. What I've gone through is not unusual. I may be able to communicate it in a different way than most, but I'm not the only one that have gone through some challenging times. We all do. The difference in the leadership of the hand of Moses is that Moses was blameless. He didn't need the position. He wasn't there of his own accord. He lacked nothing before he started. He had an incredible reputation for service and leadership because he loved the people. He had loved the people from the time he was a child and didn't know how to help the people. When he had decided that he needed to get out of town because he was up for murder. And if he had stayed in town, his family, including his mother, his caretaker, his sister, would have been in jeopardy. That's the way I read it. So he had to go. He felt like he had to go. He didn't want anyone to get in trouble. There were people who didn't even know who he was before he came back in his 80s to lead them out. They didn't know he was of the tribe of the Levitical tribe. And they couldn't know. They just thought he was born in the house of Egypt. Some. This was a good man with good motives. He wasn't there to earn a paycheck. He wasn't there to be famous. He wasn't there to be impressive. He was there to share principles that he had learned over a period of years. How to listen to God, how to follow God, how to be obedient, how to move within the God nature. He had a great father-in-law. He had an impressive wife. He had a strong lineage. Most of us have to be adopted into those lineages, which is the reason why it's so important to be adopted by people who have your best interests. But you have to find people who have your best interests and aren't just trying to get rich off of you or your talent or your money. They genuinely care about you. Seeing you become successful. So I'm speaking to the leaders, so I would say it from a different perspective. You genuinely have to care about the people who you're leading. If you find yourself in a position of not knowing, it tells me that you didn't spend enough time in apprenticeship. If you find yourself in a place of not understanding, it makes me question the leadership you were under. And if you find yourself lacking wisdom, then I think you have to, and again, this is just from my perspective, I think you have to ask of God, who gives it to you liberally. In this case, the hand of Moses. You have to have, let me say it like this. The leader of 100 can't act like he's a leader of 3 million. A leader of 100 has to learn how to lead 100. The leader of 1,000 will come to that leader of 100 because he also needs leaders of hundreds to lead his thousands so that leaders of 10,000s can pull him to 10,000. And leaders of 100,000s need those leaders of 10,000s so that the leaders of 1,000,000 can pull him to lead 1,000,000. We all need each other. We all must move in unity. By moving when the cloud is on the tabernacle means that you're taking apart the tabernacle while God is still there. While God is still talking to the leadership. You can't do that. You have to wait for the cloud to lift because that's where all the direction comes from. Then you have to move until the cloud comes again, and then you have to erect the tent where the cloud dwells. In other words, you have to get your direction from God. If you're leadership or you are leadership and you're not getting your direction from God, in other words, there's no clear vision, there are no clear goals, you're not rightly handling the souls that you've been given, and you're doing what happened in chapter 11, which we're coming up on, even though God is giving you everything that you need, and you're complaining, and you're the leader, you're causing souls not to move in unity. You haven't accepted your leadership position. CashApp $MrPaulDozier, $MrPaulDozier. I hope these videos are a blessing to you. If they are, please share them with those in your congregation or your family, your friends. Please feel free to give. If you give, then I can give to some of my brothers and sisters in Kenya. If you don't, then I can't. But I'm going to continue to do these videos because we're on a journey from Genesis to Revelation. I don't know how long the journey is going to take, but we're going to make it all the way to the book of Revelation, to the end of the book of Revelation. We want to convert these messages, this scripture, into language that we can understand. I believe God has called us to do that. In the meantime, God bless you in all that you do, and thanks for listening.